actually the specializations. So all these specializations, they do something different. Each one offers something different for you, your team, your build. On this build, we have Firewall. One of the biggest reasons we have Firewall is because this med kit. Your armor kit recovers 200% armor and 200% health over 10 seconds. So let's say for some reason you're the last man standing and you need to have as much armor regen as you can. Well, you pop this med kit right when you're about to have your interaction with the other team. You're going to survive a lot better because not only do you have that 82,000 armor regen, you also have 200% of your armor kit coming over 10 seconds. So you're basically almost godlike. If you can really move, if you can dip, bob, weave, jump, all the above, you will survive and you'll do good. That's the biggest reason why I have this build. Another reason why I have this that specialization, I mean, is because of this right here. That damage bonus right there. If you look at the stats, that damage bonus per enemy, 12%. So do I know if that specifically means bonking? I have no idea. Truth be told, I have no freaking clue. But that 12%, hey, if it works, that means that's 12% extra damage that they're getting each bonk, which is great because then you can kill people. Alrighty, so in this video, I wanted to cover the entire build itself, go over each piece individually, kind of explain what a bonk build is if any newer players are unfamiliar what a bonk build is. So essentially what we have right here is a support tank build. What makes this a support build specifically is the tardigrade. So the tardigrade here, if you see, toggling blue, not blue, blue, not blue. This is PvE stats when it is not blue. And if you notice over there, the chess piece talent, whenever you or your allies' armor breaks, they gain 80% of your armor as bonus armor for 10 seconds. Now, when PvP, whenever your armor breaks, you get 40% of that armor. So you don't get as much armor, but you still get a lot. So you're a support player with this. Also, what's going on with your booster hive here is a lot of players are rocking a lot of status effects right now. So what this does is that this will stop the status effects in its tracks. The booster hive stops the status effects pretty much immediately. So if you're around your team, being around your team, if someone hits someone with a sticky bomb, that sticky bomb has a backpack. That build has a backpack talent called Creeping Death, which will affect your teammates within an 8 meter range. The booster hive will stop all of you from having that sticky bomb destroy you and wipe your entire squad. Um, what is kind of cool about this build is you can actually get quite a few kills with it. So this holster here, this is Claws Out. It's a DZ exclusive. It's a Wyvern wear. If you notice the brand sent talents, 10% extra skill damage. It doesn't really affect or have anything to do with the support build at all. But what does is down here where it says 500% melee damage. Now that 500% melee damage is going to help you when you smack them with your shield or your Lady Death. Because if we look up here at the Lady Death has a melee mod. You get 500% melee damage just for having that mod right there. So you got 1,000% melee damage. Now, here's something kind of cool with the booster hive, something I explained in the last video. The booster hive, if you read that there, the booster hive delivers a stimulant to nearby allies that increases their weapon handling, hazard protection, and melee damage. So when you're hitting with this melee damage in this booster hive, and you have the Claws Out holster and you have the Lady Death, you're getting 20% extra damage just for having the booster hive there with you. So secondary weapons, this isn't really doing much. If you want to try to beam someone from range, if they're already almost dead or they're glass cannon, or you notice that somebody's with a mortar turret and you're able to shoot the mortar turret or shoot the player, sometimes this helps out a little bit. Purple gun literally does nothing. There's a while back where some people were saying if you have a purple gun, it's a glitch and it'll make you not die. It doesn't do anything. This is literally just to troll people and kind of goof off a little bit. So now we'll get into the pieces. So like I said, let's start with this one right here. The Wyvernware Claws Out DZ exclusive. You can only get this in DZ or in a DZ cache or in a conflict cache. I believe I got this one in a conflict cache possibly. Um, the only reason why this is here is you can roll armor on it instead of the skill tier. And you have melee damage, 500%. Plus I have the armor regen on there. This is also DZ exclusive. These are the Emperor Guard knee pads. The skill duration there, again, that brand sense skill duration, 20%, has nothing to do with this build. It does not matter. This is strictly just for that 1% armor regen. If you notice there on the bottom, the first attribute, not the core attribute, but the first attribute is 1% armor regen. That's a lot of regen for just one piece. So this is clearly something that you should have on your build when you come into a tank build and a support build. You're going to get 1% armor regen just for having this. Now, as you can see, I rolled armor on there and optimized the hazard protection. Now with the Golem gear, the first brand set attribute doesn't really matter. The status effects, that's why we don't want a one piece. We want a two-piece Golem gear. Because if you notice that second brand attribute, it's 1% armor regen. So now you're at 2% armor regen. And now we have this, the Bellstone Armory. That very first attribute, we want to pay attention to that because that gives us 1% armor regen. Now, if you notice, on every single piece, I have armor regen and hazard protection. Obviously, except for the chest piece, because that's the whole reason for the tank. Now, the reason for that is so that the booster hive will stop the excess status effects that I experience, but I also have Hazard Pro on virtually every single piece. And what that does, if you notice here, I have almost 82,000 armor regen, and I am 50% Hazard Pro across the board. Now here and there I have some mods, so I'm 60% bleed resistant, 60% disorient resistant. That's for when the shield breaks, because when the shield breaks, if I'm bonking somebody and they happen to bonk me back, or they happen to shoot my shield and it breaks, this helps me not be disoriented very much, because when your shield breaks, you get disoriented. And then disrupt resistance at almost 60%. But with that, with this, I will be, with the booster hive, I'll be 70% hazard pro across the board. That's pretty damn good. Mixed with the armor regen, I don't really have to worry about status effects too much. Hence the reason why I have it all on there, so I could survive. So like I said in the last video, if you this is not going to have any gameplay in it. If you want some gameplay to check it out, the last video has gameplay in it that I uploaded. It's the video just before this one. But this is essentially a support build. You are out there with the claws out and the melee damage. You can get some good kills. You could be a main killer if you're just running solo or with two people and the other players aren't necessarily pushing very hard, and maybe the other players on the other side aren't necessarily extremely good. You can kind of get out there and get real dirt nasty with it and get quite a few kills. 5, 6, 7, 11, 12, 13. You can get a lot of kills with this build if you know how to play it right. I learned this build specifically from a gentleman named Turop. He still plays the game. He's mostly on PC now, but I came into this game and I wasn't very good. Joined his clan, and essentially what he told me is take one build that you really, really like, you really want to get good at, a build that will help you survive, maybe help you kill, and wear that build for months. So we went out and we farmed these pieces, got these pieces and slapped it together, and I wore this build for almost 4 months straight. Every now and then I kind of got bored and I played a different build, but this was my main build I played because I wanted to learn the maps. When you're playing Conflict, and this is specifically geared towards Conflict, not necessarily DZ, learning the maps and understanding where to go and what angles and what lanes people can come at you from or shoot you from is very important. So you may be able to have this build, and if you watch the gameplay in my last video, you're like, dang, Axon, I can't rock the support build like you can, and that's okay. You have to learn the maps. You could put any amount of armor on, you could put any amount of armor regen on, any amount of hazard protection. It doesn't matter. If you don't make yourself or learn to be aware of your surroundings, someone with glass cannons going to come through and beam you with headshots and you're going to be dead in seconds. So this all doesn't mean anything. So being aware, playing with your team, playing off your team, playing for your team, and going out there with a tank build like this and kind of drawing the other players to shoot you to pop their heads out so that your team can then beam them when the other team's focusing you is a huge benefit. But you have to learn, one, how far you can push this build. You have to learn how far you can push this build and any other build, because sometimes you may only be 2 shots from death. You got to jump away real quick, pop a med kit, maybe let your armor regen come into play when you don't have any more med kits. But that's all learning. You have to play the game, to learn it in that kind of way. So um, the lane. So when you're on a map and you and your team, or you by yourself, or over there in a corner somewhere, and you're kind of waiting for somebody to come out, you're kind of checking to see what's going on. Just remember, there's some angles behind you that they can come from. Knowing what angles they can come from behind you or from the side of you will give you the ability to kind of predict where those players are going to come from. Let's say you see two or three players in front of you, and they're just around the angle there, but you've counted three. You have three players. Where's that fourth player? That fourth player is probably flanking around you, or that fourth player is going to be a tank, and they're gonna run out, or maybe they're just being lazy sitting in the spawn. But nonetheless, understanding where your lanes are, or that you need to watch and pay attention to as a support player, is very important, because if you have someone flanking, let's say they take out your team, and now you're there by yourself and you're fighting four people. With this build, you can fight four people unless you're playing very sweaty, good players, and this build's going to be nothing. It doesn't matter anymore. So play the build, have a good time playing it, stick with it, don't give up, and I hope to see you out there. Any new players that are going to be rocking this build, I'm excited to see you bonking people. Bonk the heck out of them. You're going to have a lot of people complaining, oh, take that build off, that's junk. It's not junk. It's another option that the game gives you. If you're good at it, that's why they're talking. If you're good at bonking people and they're talking crap to you, that means you've killed them a couple times, even if you don't know it. And they're talking smack because they can't rock this build. They haven't put the time in to learn this build. They don't know how the ins and outs work of this build. They don't know how to be a support player. They're selfish. So have fun with this build. We need more support players out there. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to friend me and hit me up. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.